Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, I sure appreciate your support. As you can see, the chore list never quits, right? What we're going to do, guys, we're going to talk about today, while we're waiting for this bladder to fill up. I'm getting a lot of questions, guys, about EHD and what that means and what we should be doing to prepare for it. So I wanted to make a video today kind of helping some folks along with what to look for, what to look out for, and how you deal with that. We'd like to take a minute to thank our great partners: Promised Land Tree Service, Scent Thief, Painted Arrow Outdoors, Wicked Feeder Solutions, Bluebird Drones, DLS Outdoors, Jackhammer Mineral, Full Spectrum Products, Harper Growing Solutions, and Cabela's. I wish I didn't know. I wish I hadn't felt, guys, the devastation or didn't know anything about EHD. Sadly, that's not the truth. A lot of my clients deal with it around the country, and I've personally seen it multiple different times on some stuff we've had around the country as well, and where I've lived, and it's devastating, right? A lot of work, a lot of time goes into these farms, and it's one thing if we make mistakes and something we can cure and we can stop doing. It's another thing if that, something like that happens where you can't control that plume. There are some things, speaking of water holes, that you can do, guys. So let's just start here. I think it's a preventative mindset that we have to get involved with, guys, and I see it coming slowly, but I just don't see it coming fast enough. It can't get here fast enough to me. You have to go above and beyond. No matter where you're at in the country, go above and beyond to prevent the spread of this. Guys, that EHD midge lives in that dried cracked mud, and I'm telling you, there's people that jump on here and email me and everything else saying these ponds aren't the problem, yada yada yada. Guys, the ponds, these little ponds, now there's definitions, right? There's differences. These little deer ponds that you're putting in, no pun intended to the product, but these little mud puddles that you're creating, right, are not helping. They're hurting, right? So that's why we go with these 300-gallon, 300 or 500-gallon tanks. It's a huge piece, guys. They're dry around them. There's no mud. They get a lot of track, so I'm not saying that there's not some mud around them right now because they use them a lot, right? But the vegetation we're able to plant around them, there's not the raising and the falling of that water, and that dried crack, guys, goes away. And I'm here to tell you, it helps. So get rid of those little ponds. Don't dig those ponds in with little mini excavators. Now, am I saying that you shouldn't have a pond on the property like a fishing pond? No, that's totally separate. If there's vegetation around it, if it's a large body of water that maintains itself, the example would be like from a 100-gallon tank to a 300-gallon tank. I very seldom have to put any water in my 300s, right? I've got two that need to be upgraded to, that's what we're doing today, right, is filling them. They need to be upgraded to 300s. And I don't, them are the only ones I put water in. They're the small ones, guys. So it's the same theory, right, with these small ponds, is they're not big enough to maintain themselves, right? So once you hit that 300 gallons or more, it helps, right? It works. Hopefully they're in a spot where you get a little, aid of some precipitation helping it fill them. But to make a long story short, right, that's the first step. Preventative mindset. You have to get rid of these ponds, and you have to go above and beyond to understand that that's part of the problem. So it may never hit you, but guys, when it does, the easiest thing you could do is take an excavator and pop a hole in that thing, in that levee of those ponds, and get rid of them. Because if you don't, and you realize that it's going to be they're too late down the road, right? So just go and do those. The next step is what happens to the farms right after these hit. Sadly, it's devastating. It targets, guys, this EHD, what I've learned and what I've seen over the years is it targets more mature deer, and there's a lot of theories about why that happens. My theory is the more mature a deer is, the bigger body, right? They just drink more water. They have to drink more water, especially if they're in their prime and they're running around and 4 or 5 years old, and they're burning, building, I should say, right? Building a lot of that internal heat during their pre-rut and rut. They're just drinking more water. Makes them go to water more, have more of a chance to get that midge. So there's a lot to be said for that. The other side of it is, guys, the older a buck gets, the more his food and water intake regiment is higher on his list, right? More important to him. They get very comfortable with these water holes that we're putting in secure areas, stuff like that, right? So it's a great thing, but as land stewards, if you're going to invite more deer and we're trying to keep older age structure deer on the farms, we don't want to be a part of the problem, right? We want to try to be helping, possibly doing whatever we can do to be a solution, right? So just let that one sink in. If you're going to do these, it's just like any habitat work. If you're going to invite them to the plate and you're going to lock them in here, there's a whole different video that we could talk about like deer yards in the UP of Michigan and Wisconsin, stuff like that, New York. If you're going to lock those deer in, guys, you're going to bring them to the plate and you're going to ask them to stay here. You have to have enough food. You have to have enough water. You have to have enough shelter and cover for them, right? And if you don't, you're actually hurting it. That's where the land stewardship side comes in. So the good thing of what did make it through EHD, if there's any good in it at all, right? The good thing of it is, guys, if treated properly, you now have an advantage that you didn't have before. And what I mean by that, guys, if you have some older age structure bucks, maybe some 3.5, 4.5, whatever that is, that made it through, right, and made it through EHD, and like Ohio, there's not a lot to hunt, and people are stopping their hunting or pressure, so they're not totally wiping out areas. Those deer, guys, don't have to roam to find. There's no competition. There's some of these areas, guys, Indiana, Ohio, they're talking 80% of the total deer herd gone. Total annihilation, pretty much, right? Not total, but darn near. And so there's not the competition for food. So if you have these older age structure bucks, they've got all this food, they've got all this cover. Next year could be your year because he's not going to go very far, right? So you have to think ahead. Look at your habitat plans coming here. If you have a part of the farm that you need to bump the density up a little bit, or making sure that you're on point this year, doing everything we can do. Hopefully we get rains, right? Make sure your food plots programs are strong. Make sure your pressure's low. What I see is the year following EHD of the bucks that made it through can be a very successful hunting year. Obviously, if there's something left, right? So that's the good, if there is any good, like I said, in it, right? The long-term side of it, guys, is it does reset a bunch of stuff. It knocks a hole in communities that are so overpopulated. We're dealing as a country, as a nation, a nationwide problem, I guess, let's say, as far as no one wanting to shoot does or not shooting does, non-residents traveling to, parts of the country not wanting to shoot a doe because they got a buck tag. The list goes on and on there, right? We all need to do our part. The sad part of it is, guys, I really feel that when we don't do our part, the good Lord steps in, and sometimes he does it for us. I'm not saying that this is intentional. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying this is how we have to use an open mind and get through these hard parts, right? So if I were, the Lord blessed us this year, we didn't have it here in Kentucky. 5 years now I haven't had it. I've had one buck in 5 years that I know had it, and I'd lost him. Now after this season, he never showed up, and I found a dead buck on the farm from last February. He had it in September. But I want to touch on that real quick, guys. That deer made it. I passed that deer up with a muzzleloader in October. Early muzzleloader hunt. He had EHD in September, guys. He camped out on my water holes every day. So somewhere in the community, he picked it up, right? I really believe that's why he made it that far, because he was at a clean water source. So his neck was all swelled up in September, looked like he was in a rut. Made it through, but it caught up to him in February, right? Because you add stress and everything else on top of it. So it's not that they can't beat it. It's just that, like I said, guys, we have to go above and beyond to really give them a leg up. There's some folks like Iowa, for example, parts of the country and stuff around where you can do some feeding. There was some folks actually taking water tanks, put them next to the feeder, so they were trying to shortchange their movement. So in other words, feed here, water here, bed there, kind of thing. And I've heard that's worked, right? It's not a good hunting strategy, but at some point you need to put the hunting on the back burner and try to, hopefully get a bunch of deer through, whether you can feed or not. There was guys doing that on their food plots and everything else, just setting the tank there and giving them, 3 foot above the ground, filling them once a week. There's all kinds of people really trying to do some, going above and beyond this year to help that. So if you are dealing with it, guys, like I said, it's detrimental, sad deal. Look at the positives of it, though. Move forward. The herd will reset. I hate to say this about some parts of Ohio, but there's going to be some farms sold. There's already clients of mine that are like, what do we do? And we're not waiting 5 years for these to come back. And they're selling some stuff off. That's the sad part. Indiana, not so much Illinois. Illinois got hit as well, but Ohio was the big one, right, this year. So you got to have a long-term goal, right? Hopefully, like I said, you have some of those 3 and 4 year olds, and then next year with no competition, lower numbers, a lot of food, they're not going to roam. So I've had this question: will I pick up a buck this late in the season, going through the rest of the season here? Do I have a potential to pick up some bucks? That's a very slim chance right now, guys, when that happens. And the reason I say that is it's a slim chance because there's so much food where they're at right now, and probably the browse are where they settled in. They don't have to roam. Kind of ties into that other thing I was talking about as far as next year, right? So if you do pick up something, it's a blessing, and then maybe he'll stick. But I wouldn't. I'm not saying don't hunt the rest of the year, guys, but I'm saying there's some folks in Ohio that have chosen to do that, and it's probably a good idea, right? There was some talk that Ohio was even going to shut their gun season down. I don't know if they did that in certain areas or not, but devastation, right? So these are the points, guys, that jump to my mind that help, right? Get these water sources cured, look ahead, have positive outlooks, really get a good number this year on what you're left with, and make some of these improvements going forward. And that's kind of the EHD help that I can give you this year, guys, right? So thoughts and prayers are with everybody that it's happened to. It's not no fun, but like I said, if you were spared, maybe we can help you get on one of those, make them stick, and get on one of those bucks for next year, guys. Thanks.